Okay, sorry about the length of time it's taken to do this video. Basically, I got up early, but it took a while to watch Hell in a Cell, basically because my stream kept giving me issues. I know what you're thinking, oh, and you probably should have watched it via the network, and normally I do, but with the network, it's not easy to just jump around, and if I'm watching something live, that's cool, but if I need to get to something specific, I don't want to watch all the gaga, and I just want to do the matches, then it's a lot harder to utilize it, so that's the reason why I watch another way. Now, I want to talk about Hell in a Cell, and we're going to start with the kickoff. Kickoff brought to you in part, of course, by Mountain Dew Kickstart, which I will be reviewing on this channel, actually, on Thursday for Sip and Snack, so check out that video when it comes out. So, of course, this hour-long was filled with a huge segment and one very, very short match. So we started off with not Miz TV, but Mizdow TV. So Damien Sandow comes out with The Miz, of course, and they both sit in the director's chairs. And Sandow gets on the mic and says, "Welcome to the second most must-see talk show in WWE." So The Miz starts talking, basically cuts off Sandow, and when he cuts Sandow off, Sandow goes immediately into mimic mode, and he starts basically mouthing the same words that The Miz is saying, or kind of a version of them. Basically just mouthing along with the words, kind of like he's basically lip-syncing at this point. So, he says, "No stunt double has ever bestowed such an honor," depending on who's pronouncing your word here. So kudos to me. So basically The Miz is trying to get himself over. Sandow says, "This isn't being ironic. This is basically me saying this is the greatest moment of my entire career." Okay. Miz cuts Sandow off of the path yet again and asks about his strategy against Sheamus. He's like, "Whoa, wait a minute, I'll ask that question. What's your strategy against Sheamus?" So Miz says, basically, defeating Sheamus has become second nature, and simply put, he's just going to be himself. "Tonight will feel like a rerun, but lucky for you, it's starring me." I love how cocky The Miz is. He's absolutely great when it comes to this. So, Sandow reminds us again that he was the one who beat Sheamus in the six-man tag on Raw Monday night. Technically. So The Miz, of course, starts to fume, and you can see it in his face. So Sandow backpedals and says, "Yes, because I'm your stunt double, and I do work for you, it's basically like saying you are the one who beat Sheamus." So obviously The Miz, of course, smiles brightly, knowing that he got a fast one over on the United States Champion, and hopefully he's going to be able to do just that later tonight. This time, The Miz will win the United States Championship. Sandow gets down to brass tacks and says, "From the bottom of my heart, you're the best friend I've ever had." So The Miz says, "You know what? I'm touched, Damien. I truly appreciate those words, and I'm generous enough to give them back straight to you." He pats him on the shoulder and says, "Damien, you're a damn good stunt double." I thought he was going to say fine, but he said good. Still funny. "One I'm truly proud to call my friend." They hug. Sheamus interrupts on the Tron, and he says, "Why don't you ask Sandow to get on his hands and knees and kiss your arse goodbye? You're not going to win tonight. Obviously, I'm going to retain the championship. And let me break it down in a manner that you're more used to, that you're more accustomed to. Say this right now, me on the Tron, this is the trailer. And you know what the trailer does? It gives away the best parts." What an amazing shoot line that Sheamus said right there. And he basically brogue kicks the camera and destroys it, and that's the end of that. So Sheamus music plays, and that's the end of the segment. So basically building up to the Intercontinental. The United States title match is going to be later on in the actual pay-per-view card. So we get one match on the show, and it is the World's Strongest Man, Mark Henry, coming out against Bo Dallas. Bo Dallas comes out, since we are in Dallas, Texas for Hell in a Cell. He says, "I've beaten Mark Henry 4 times, so that makes me the new World's Strongest Man. See, I'm immune to any disease your city is spreading to this country." Not saying it exactly in the words, but obviously bringing up something that obviously we all know about right now. Kind of like what Lana did that ticked everyone off, but to a lesser extent, and using a lot more careful wording when they're discussing something very critical in today's society. Tonight, you can call me Bo Washington because I'm so ashamed that my last name is the same name of your city. I thought that was amazing, by the way. So this match is real short. Henry ragdolls Bo Dallas, finishes him off with the world's strongest slam after a short avalanche in the corner. After the match is over, Bo Dallas says that he still believes, or Bo believes in this case, that he is the rightful victor. And Mark Henry pretty much puts an exclamation point on the entire event by throwing him into the barricade and leaving him for dead. Program over. So now we talk about our actual pay-per-view, and we kick off with our opening contest. It is for the Intercontinental Championship, 2 out of 3 falls. Dolph Ziggler taking on Cesaro, and of course this stems from their short feud they've had recently on Raw and SmackDown. This leads to this match, and what a match it was. We'll pick it up midway through the match, and there is a grounded sleeper by Cesaro. Dolph breaks the grip and shoots him off the ropes. Cesaro with a shoulder tackle, drop down, makes a cover 1 count only. So he locks on a headlock while he's on the canvas. He gets shoved off to the ropes, drop down, hip toss is blocked. Cesaro goes for a forearm, gets caught, and turned around into a backslide. 1 count only for Dolph Ziggler. Cesaro hits a sunset flip 1-2, and we go into indie pinning predicament version 2 here. Because he bridges back for 2. Cesaro sunset back for 2. Dolph stack pin 1-2. Cesaro flips him forward into a sunset 1-2 and a kick out. Dolph bridges back 1-2 and a kick out. Cesaro to a sunset one more time 1-2 and a kick out. So Dolph bridges back this time, hooks the leg, gets a 2 off of that, and we go into Dolph's normal offense. Charging splash in the corner, and a reverse neck breaker is shoved off to a tilt-a-whirl, which gets countered with a standing drop kick from the Intercontinental Champion. But it's caught by Cesaro, going for the giant swing, and it gets countered to an inside cradle, 1-2, and a kick out. Cesaro catches Dolph with a hot shot and double legs him. Giant swing does connect this time, about 9 rotations, and gets a 2 off of that. He goes for a roll-up pin, and that's what Dolph does to get the 3 count. He basically gets a flash pin and gets the 3, getting 1 fall up on his challenger. So, right after the bell sounds, basically Cesaro double stomps the kidneys of Dolph. Does the mounted forearms to the back of the head, kind of rabbit punch style. Charges into the Swiss uppercut in the corner, 1-2, and a kick out. So, a scoop slam, walks the middle rope, hits the leaping elbow, but he finds nothing but canvas. When he hits the leaping elbow, he finds the canvas instead because Dolph misses. Arm wringer, and Cesaro pops him with a straight right hand and gets a 1 count off of it. So he mounts him with the punches, and he does a basic camel clutch style choke with Dolph's own arm. Kind of a one-arm straight jacket choke, basically is what it was. Dolph punches his way out somehow, gets shoved off to the rope. Cesaro charges in, goes for a back elbow, and it looked like Dolph was going to charge him for the exclamation point DDT, but he ends up hitting a single arm DDT or a flying armbar off the ropes, and immediately this starts Cesaro's arm problems he has for the duration of the contest. So Cesaro just gets agitated with this, hits the leaping double stomp, gets a 2 off of that. Butterfly powerbomb for a 2 off of that. Dolph's on the apron, and he gets slammed face first to the top turnbuckle, climbs up, Cesaro going for the outside in superplex, and he gets stopped by Dolph yanking his arm right across the top rope. Hits an elbow to the midsection when Cesaro gets back to a vertical base, and he ducks Cesaro's clothesline, comes off with a satellite head scissors into it looked like a single chicken wing or a key lock. Didn't be working the arm. So he's got it locked on. Cesaro backs him in the corner, tries to break it, and he maneuvers Dolph's body around and goes for a suplex, gets blocked, and gets blocked again. Dolph goes back to the armbar, and this time wraps his legs around the waist of Cesaro with a body vice, and he gets rammed in the buckle by Cesaro twice. He climbs up the top rope while Dolph is still in his grasp, and he still hits the superplex viciously. Both men are down. Cesaro drapes one arm over, 1, 2, and a last-ditch kick out. So he charges in, Dolph out of the way, Rob Petrie style, he sidestepped, and of course Cesaro goes shoulder first in the ring post, allowing Dolph to hit the name dropper, 1, 2, and a kick out. Goes for the zigzag, Cesaro swats him off, exclamation point DDT is countered into Swiss Death, 1, 2, and a kick out. So he rains down 3 elbows, does the challenger. Cesaro picks him up. It gets countered in a roll-up. 1, 2, and Cesaro kicks out. Dolph goes for the super kick. It gets caught, spun around. Swiss uppercut, swat away, and catches a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker, does the challenger. 1, 2, Dolph kicks out. Cesaro wants to put him away. So he goes for the Gotch-style neutralizer, but it gets countered into a shoulder stunner. Dolph nails a very close-range super kick right into the zigzag. 1, 2, 3, and Dolph Ziggler wins 2 falls to zip, defeating Cesaro. Good back-and-forth match. I enjoyed the chemistry between these two. I enjoyed the start of the match before I even started recapping it with the catch-as-catch-can back-and-forth wrestling ability. Obviously, we know Dolph's wrestling acumen, and everyone knows how acclaimed Cesaro is as a mat grappler. Now, I enjoyed this match, but I'm not exactly sure why it ended the way it did. If you're going to go the way you did, you would have done 1 fall Cesaro win, 1 fall Dolph win the 3rd fall. I have no idea exactly why Dolph won 2 straight. Now, there is a rumor online that Cesaro's internet comments about John Cena and Randy Orton being a little bit stale might have contributed to him losing in such decisive fashion at Hell in a Cell. I don't know if you can put any stake in that, but, you know, it's actually something to think about, depending on where we see Cesaro on Raw tonight, honestly. I like this match. I like the Rob Van Dam, Jerry Lynn style indie pinning sequence. I like that in the match. I like the transitions in the match. I like the outside-in superplex. Normally is done, but this time it got blocked, and I like how he actually hit the superplex while he had Dolph locked up, and he climbed up while he was holding Dolph and hit the superplex anyway. I really enjoyed this match for what it was, and hopefully we've not seen the end of this feud, but as decisively as Dolph won, the only way I can see Cesaro getting back into this if we do some sort of a tag match tonight on Raw. Like, maybe we do, I don't know, maybe Sheamus and Dolph Ziggler against The Miz and Cesaro tonight on Raw. And then that leads to Rusev coming out and attacking Sheamus and starting their program to lead us into Survivor Series. I think that's probably a good indication of what could possibly happen. Or you can do something again with Sheamus, and his feud with The Miz is pretty much over after last night. So there's something different you can go into it. But I do think that Sheamus' next feud will be with Rusev. I don't know who Dolph's next feud is going to be with at this point. I would have thought Bo Dallas, but they kind of took him down a peg or two tonight, so I don't think that's going to happen. It'd be interesting to see where we go with the Intercontinental Championship from here. Maybe Cesaro is going to go on to something else, and maybe Sandow will go after Dolph because The Miz wants both championships. He couldn't get the job done himself against Sheamus for the U.S. title, which we'll talk about later on in the show, but he's going to sick Sandow on Dolph so he can have his dirty work done for him, and we could get the Intercontinental Championship back in Camp Miz. So I think that actually might be what I would do in this point. I would send Sandow after Dolph Ziggler in the Intercontinental Championship. Don't know if they'll do that, I just think it's a good idea. So we go to our next match. It is the first Divas match of the evening. Loser becomes the winner's personal assistant. It is Brie Bella versus Nikki Bella. It was what it was. Brie at the Bella Factor, got the 2 off of that, and we come back, ducks the clothesline, and Brie hits a leaping clothesline, standing dropkick, the running knee, and she goes for it again, and Nikki smartly goes to the floor to break momentum. So Brie nails Nikki with a tope, tosses her in, goes up top, nails Brie mode off the top instead of the middle buckle this time, the missile dropkick, and gets a 2 off of that. Whip in reverse, and she springs off the bottom rope, going for the kip up, long day. tip-up in this case. And Nikki catches her with a straight front kick right to the chest. Goes for the rack attack, 1-2, Brie kicks out. Nikki tries to take advantage and gets locked in the May-Brie lock. Yeah, the Yes Lock version of Brie's, the May-Brie lock here in this case, because not yes, no, maybe, get it? Yes, lock, no lock, May-Brie lock, get it? So, Nikki gets her foot on the ropes, calling for the break, and she straight forearms Brie like she's Lex Luger at WrestleMania 9. And she picks her up, hits the rack attack, this time does get the 3 count, and of course later on in the show, she's getting ready to leave, is Brie. Nikki asks if she has her smoothie, and she basically dumps the smoothie over her head. It's like, that's yours, you can bring mine to my hotel room, and this is going to continue. What I think will end up happening, and I honestly think this is the right direction to go, we do this back and forth, till we get to Survivor Series, where we do Brie versus Nikki captaining 2 Survivor Series teams. Brie has a chance to win, but Nikki tells her to lay down, and she doesn't, and she ends up beating Nikki, and Nikki comes out and says she violated the agreement to be her personal assistant. And somehow, some way, we end up making this a match at TLC where Brie finally wins and we end this feud once and for all. And hopefully, somehow, some way, there can be some sort of a greater power in the Divas division that convinces Nikki and Brie to get back together so they can reform their pairing after the season of Total Divas. Because apparently the new season of Total Divas, which doesn't start until later on, is going to focus on them being apart. So maybe the next season will focus on them coming back together. So yeah, this match was, it was alright. It was okay. Crowd not really into it very much, not surprising. Could have been a lot worse. Nikki's getting better. Brie's getting somewhat better. I mean, it was alright. It was kind of a break between what just happened and kind of cooling the crowd down from Dolph and Cesaro, which the crowd were really into. So, that's pretty much what it was. It was a cool down match. They tried. They really did. But it was just kind of there. I didn't say it was terrible, but it was a match. It was a match you would have seen on Raw or SmackDown. Up next, we had the WWE Tag Team Championships on the line. Goldust and Stardust defending against Jimmy and Jey Uso. We pick it up midway through the match, and Stardust has got the Halo chin lock on Jey. And I will credit Michael Cole for actually telling me which Uso is which mostly in this match. He doesn't do that very often, so thank you, Michael Cole, for doing that, because you completely made a bonehead decision later on in the evening to make up for the fact that you gave me something nice early on. So Jey elbows his way out, whip in, and Stardust comes off the ropes with a running bulldog, and Jey tosses Stardust off. Stardust tags in Goldust and hits the right hand, whip in, and Jey stops him with the right hand. Charges in, Goldust backdropped over the top rope to the floor, tags in Jimmy, so he comes in like a house of fire, hits the Samoan suicide dive on Goldust, tosses Stardust when he gets out of the ring, and when Stardust is outside the ring, he comes in and hits the Samoan suicide dive on him as well. So Jimmy with a leaping shoulder block onto Goldust on the floor, which we don't see very often. Tosses him in, heads up top, flying body press connects, 1-2, Goldust kicks out. Goes for the super kick, gets caught, and a right hand to Goldust stops that momentum. Stardust on the ring apron, he gets super kicked off, and ducks his clothesline. Goldust catches him off the rope with an Anderson-style spine buster, and 1-2, and a kick out from Jimmy Uso. So, punching and chopping Jimmy in the corner, does Goldust whip in, Uso reversed, and Goldust goes for the backstop back elbow, and we've seen this before, obviously the Usos have, and it misses. Super kick connects, 1-2, Goldust kicks out, Jimmy put on the buckle, a right hand, climbs up to meet Goldust, Goldust punches him off momentarily, Stardust heads up top, and Jey catches him with a right hand on the opposite side of the ring. Jey with a leaping forearm knocks Stardust to seated position on the top turnbuckle, and they both climb up at the same time, and they hit stereo superplexes on Goldust and Stardust in the center of the ring. Jey heads up top for the Samoan Splash. He connects 1-2, and Stardust makes a last-ditch save. So Jimmy pounds Stardust in the corner, and Jey goes for a Samoan drop, and Stardust stops it with a straight like, stomp right to the back of the kneecap. This allows for Goldust to hit the final cut and gets the 3 count on Jey Uso. So that is the end. And Goldust and Stardust retain the WWE Tag Team Championships, hopefully ending their pursuit of the titles for a bit, but I think that they could possibly even do a rematch as early as tonight. Some sort of a tag match between the two, or maybe singles matches between the two. I haven't seen that in a while. I know we've seen it before, but we haven't seen it in a while, so maybe that'll end up happening. What needs to happen tonight is you need to have new blood in the tag team division, and I'm not talking about Los Matadores and Slater Gator. I'm talking about new blood, and I'm talking about new blood. I'm talking about NXT blood. And I think tonight we do some sort of a match. Maybe do a Slater Gator versus Los Matadores versus the Usos for #1 contender to Stardust and Goldust at Survivor Series. Something like that. Or #1 contender, period. And then midway through the match, you just have the Ascension come out and have Connor and Victor just decimate everyone in the ring and make their presence known that they're the ones that want the tag team titles. And they don't care who has them. They don't care if they're the cosmic key or what they are, the key to victory. They don't care about any of that. They just want to decimate, annihilate, and take the WWE Tag Team Championships off of Goldust and Stardust. And I think that is the right direction to go. So up next we had a surprise, and that is the first half of our double main event. And shock, it actually wasn't the battle between the former Shield. No, this was the battle of the feud that never ends between John Cena and Randy Orton for the #1 contender to the WWE Championship, currently held by Brock Lesnar. So this match was interesting. It's pretty long, so I picked it up about 10 minutes in, about 10-15 minutes in. Orton goes for the backdrop suplex spot. Normally he does it through a table. Obviously there's a cell in the way, can't really do that. Instead of doing it against the steel, which he doesn't do that either, he basically crotches John Cena across the ring post and hits the 3.0 backbreaker for good measure. Tosses him in, makes a cover, 1-2, Cena kicks out. So Cena crawls to the apron. Orton comes off the ropes and knocks Cena hard off the apron into the cell. So we come back, Orton on the prowl, whip in, reverse, and Orton goes shoulder first into the cell. So Cena sends Orton face first into the cell, and then he runs into the opposite side, sends him face first into the cell, gets a table from under the ring and puts it in the ring, sets it up, and Orton catches him with a right hand. So he starts peppering him with rights in the ring, and Cena basically just kind of stops this with going for the AA. Cena countered, and Orton lands on his feet. Orton nails a perfect standing drop kick, 1-2, and a kick out. Yes, I said that on purpose. So he sends him into the chair that was set up in the corner. Once normally called setting up your own demise, Orton's the one that actually set it up. So he actually set up something that actually worked for a change. Doesn't happen very often. Makes a cover, 1-2, Cena kicks out. So Orton sets up a table in the corner, and this never bodes well. Starts stomping Cena in the corner, and he drops a chair into his ribs, and then he whips him in towards, and Cena puts on the brakes, ducks the clothesline, shoulder block, comes off the ropes, and he gets stopped with the RKO out of nowhere, 1-2, and Cena kicks out. So Cena is down. Orton picks him up, throws him through the table in the corner for good measure, makes a cover, 1-2, and a kick out. So Orton grabs a chair from outside the ring, tosses it aside, and gets a ring steps, and then breaks the ring steps apart and throws one half into the ring, obviously the bottom half. Well, he sets it up, he starts pounding the mat like an idiot, going for the RKO, obviously. He goes for the RKO, gets countered, Cena proto-bombs him on top of the ring steps, hits the 5-knuckle shuffle, standing variety, and Orton's in severe trouble right now. He goes for the AA again. Orton counters this time with a blatant low blow. No DQs in the cell, obviously. So he makes a cover, 1-2, and a kick out. Gets up in the referee's face, and this allows for him to come to the brilliant decision to go for the punt kick. Excuse me. He goes for the punt kick. He misses. Cena transitions to the STF. Orton's crawling towards the ropes. He gets to the ropes. No rope breaks in a Hell in a Cell, obviously. But he crawls so much that he's halfway underneath the bottom rope, and this allows for Cena to have to break the hold. So Cena picks up the ring steps and just viciously tosses them at Orton, who is now groggily up against the cell. Orton's out of the way. Cena does not put a hole in the cell, so that didn't happen. Because obviously we have another one tonight, so we can't destroy the cell tonight. Could you imagine if that would have happened in the match? They would have really had to work to get that fixed. I'm not sure that would have happened. It would have been just like a big gaping hole in the cell for Rollins and Ambrose later on in the night. But I digress. So, Orton ends up sending Cena into the cell, tosses him in, and Cena pops out of nowhere himself with the AA 1-2, and Orton kicks out at 3. He goes for the AA again, and when he's flipping him over, Orton grabs his neck in the cravat and RKO's him legitimately out of nowhere and gets the 2 off of that. Orton beside himself. Gotta wonder what he has to do to put John Cena away once and for all. So, of course, he gets distracted by arguing with the ref, and he ends up eating the AA 1-2. Again, Orton kicks out. Cena grabs another table from under the ring, puts it back in the ring, and Cena puts Orton on the table. Cena climbs up, and Orton comes off. He climbs off, punches Cena in the face, and he crotches Cena up top. So he climbs up, after setting the table in place, mind you, a headbutt, and he's going for the RKO. More specifically, he's going for Johnny Ace's Ace Crusher. The old Ace Crusher that Johnny Ace used to do off the top rope. Well, this is allowing him to climb up when he's got the cravat locked on. Cena ends up tossing him off. He gets stopped, a right hand, he climbs up. Cena transitions into the AA off the top rope, through the table, and Orton's not kicking out from this. 1, 2, 3. John Cena is the new #1 contender for the WWE Championship. Now, I have some issues with this. Number 1, same old, same old. Number 2, Orton and Cena actually put on a good match here. I actually enjoyed this for what it was. And the finish, even though we've seen it before, the exact same finish before, it still worked in effect of this match. I liked the RKO out of the AA. I thought that was really unique, and it's something that I have not seen yet. Obviously, I've not seen it between these two before. I've seen it before in other matches, but I haven't seen it as a counter from the AA yet. So I thought that was entertaining. 2, you have Survivor Series in Randy Orton's hometown, so you have 2 different directions to go. Number 1, you put him against Lesnar, which it doesn't sound like Lesnar's going to be showing up in 2014. So, we don't see Brock Lesnar until Royal Rumble is what it sounds like. And it sounds like we've got Cena and Lesnar at the Rumble, and that's pretty much what we're leaning towards. So, we've got that set up. Which this puts Randy Orton on the outside looking in, but obviously we've had dissension in the ranks of the Authority lately, so it makes perfect sense that him and Rollins will be the next match we have. And a newly babyface Randy Orton against Seth Rollins, in Orton's hometown, mind you, is probably just what the doctor ordered. What about if there was a possibility that maybe they do Orton versus Rollins and put the briefcase on the line? Maybe Randy Orton takes the briefcase, and now that's how he's got his shot against Brock Lesnar. That might actually work, too. But I don't think we've seen the last of Ambrose and Rollins yet. I mean, you might think we have, but there still could be something in the tank, obviously. But I do think that we do a program between Orton and Rollins going forward, and I think that is the right direction to go. What happens after Cena loses to Lesnar at the Royal Rumble? Rusev Crush. That's all I have to say. Up next, we had our United States title match. Sheamus defending against The Miz. Of course, Damian Sandow in his corner. I love Sandow here. My God. I love the Mizdow gimmick so much. I love how he works the Invisible Man on the floor. I love how he sells on the floor. When The Miz was getting the 10 beats, I love how Sandow was actually on the bottom rope, hooked up, selling as well. And I love the fact when Sheamus actually hit The Miz with the Finley roll, he was laying on top of the steps, was Sandow, and of course he didn't take the bump off of it, but Sheamus was getting confused. It's like, why are you selling? And we'll talk about the end of that match in a minute. Speaking of the Finley roll on the floor, that's actually where we pick it up. And he tosses Miz in, hits the battering ram off the top, 1-2, and a kick out. whip in, and he ducks his head, and of course he gets kicked straight in the chest. Over the shoulder power slam. Miz lands on his feet and charges in. Sheamus gets the boots up. Oh, Sheamus gets hit with the boots here. And he charges in, does the Miz like a house of fire, eats the Irish Curse backbreaker, 1-2, and a kick out. So Sheamus tries to take advantage again, and Miz boots him in the knee and charges in to an inverted DDT to the knee, of course. And that, of course, usually goes into the old school expulsion, but he shoves Sheamus chest first into the corner and hits the reverse neckbreaker off. 1-2 and a kick out. So straight knee to the face from the side, like a side knee to the face. Like you've seen the side knees before, like usually how it hits in the corner. So Cravat is locked on and he starts pounding away. He slaps Sheamus repeatedly, which of course you don't want to tick off someone with Irish blood. That's just not going to work. An overhand right, Sheamus nails him with 2 gut shots, and Miz stops momentum with a grounded DDT. 1-2, and Sheamus kicks out. Goes for skull-crushing finale, gets flipped off, and countered in a white noise, countered into the figure 4, and he kicks it off. Over the shoulder power slam, does connect. Sandow gets on the ring apron, starts yelling, "Cut, cut, cut!" Which is funny, because I didn't know Sandow was the director here, but apparently he is. So, a roll-up by Sheamus is no ref. Miz rolls him up, Sheamus reverses, no ref, and there's no pinfall. So, this allows for the distraction to end up Sheamus eating the skull-crushing finale, 1-2, and Sheamus kicks out. Miz charges in, Miz line in the corner, starts pounding away at the side of the head, utilizing the Sheamus' match with Cesaro at Night of Champions last month. Goes up top, and it looks like Miz is going to crown Sheamus once and for all. Walks in the Brogue Kick. 1-2, 3. So, after the match is over, Sheamus decides he wants to pick up the unconscious body of the Miz and make him do, like, stupid stuff. He sets him up, he makes him do the YMCA and everything, and it's funny because Sandow the whole time does exactly everything that's being done. It's like duck soup, it really is. When he raises the arm of Miz, the arm of Sandow comes up. And when he sets him up, Sandow sets up. And when he lets him drop back, Sandow drops back. So what ends up happening is Sheamus ends up brogue kicking the already unconscious Miz for no reason. Basically just to watch Sandow take the bump as well. I love this. I love this program so much, and there's so much money to be made when Sandow finally turns on the Miz. He's already over to the point that we actually got a Mizdow's awesome chant tonight, which was really amazing. Just going through the motions, this Sheamus, as always, this will move to his feud with Rusev, I'm pretty sure. The Miz, I think that him and Sandow go after Dolph Ziggler next. I know we already did this, but I think this time the Miz decides he wants to let his stunt double do his light work for him, and he sicks him on Dolph to get the job done, and I think that's probably where we go from here. So we can at least continue to feud these two, and I'm sure that the Miz and Sheamus is probably over. If there's not one last match tonight, I'm pretty sure that's the end of the feud. It's very decisively over because he legitimately treated him like a rag doll. Like, he made him do the YMCA and everything. It was funny, but I mean, he just made Miz look like a complete and total goof. So, yeah, I think this is over. And Sheamus, like I said, moves on to Rusev. Speaking of Rusev against the Big Show up next. This match was short, but I gotta hand it to the Big Show. He utilizes a new submission hold. This was really cool. So, the stomp from Rusev, going for the accolade, he can't get it on. Big Show counters, ties up Rusev's legs, and he pulls back on the ankle, basically bending Rusev into the shape of a C. So basically like bending him in half. Rusev almost about to give up, and he gets to the ropes. Lana, of course, breathes a sigh of relief, obviously. Big Show readies the WMD, and a duck from Rusev. He starts kicking away, and he comes off the ropes, Big Show with a shoulder block. A clothesline, sends him into the opposite corner, and he comes off the ropes, Big Show with a harpoon. Mark Henry comes out. Knew this was going to happen. Not exactly what I thought was going to happen, but he does. Big Show readies for the choke slam. Goozles him, Rusev stops it with boots to the knee. Clubs to the neck, goes for the Muay Thai kick, but it gets caught. And Goozle, choke slam, 1-2, Rusev kicks out. Rusev rolls to the floor to break momentum. right at Mark Henry's feet. Mark Henry's like, I'm not doing anything. And Big Show looks at Mark Henry like, what are you doing here? But he basically kind of tells him, like, body language to stay away. So that's pretty much what he does. Big Show tosses Rusev in. Rusev shakes off the cobwebs, catches Big Show with a Muay Thai kick. Mark Henry gets on the ring apron. He eats one as well. Then Big Show gets hit with two of them. Accolade. They stop the match. No submission. No pass out. Referee just like, nope, match over. Hopefully that's the end of this, and we transition to two things. Rusev, like I said, feuding with Sheamus. Big Show feuding with Mark Henry. Not exactly the heel turn I was thinking that might happen, but I think that is to come. I think that actually may come either as early as tonight or as late as Survivor Series. Maybe there's some sort of a costing of the Big Show. Maybe Rusev and Mark Henry working together. That can't beat him, join him. I think that actually might be entertaining. Maybe... There you go. That's what I'd like to see. I think that'd actually be interesting because Rusev's been a one-man army, but it'd be funny to see that Lana paid a American hero like Mark Henry, a legitimate Olympic athlete in Mark Henry, to come out and sell out his country to join up with Rusev and Lana. And I think that actually would be a good idea. And then you bring Jack Swagger back into this, and we do Big Show and Jack Swagger against Rusev and Mark Henry, and I think it pretty much writes itself, because Mark Henry's a much better heel than he is a babyface. I do think that we get some sort of a collision tonight. I do think that Big Show calls out Mark Henry. He's like, what were you doing here? And Mark Henry's like, I was just trying to help. And Big Show's like, I don't need your help or anything like that. And Henry's like, give me one more chance to prove myself. Happens Survivor Series. Or we do that tag match I talked about later on. And I think that that's probably the right direction to go. Next match, Divas Championship on the line. AJ Lee defending against Paige with Alicia Fox, wearing all black, looking completely different than normal. Kind of China light, but not completely. I think she looks a lot better when she's wearing all solid color gear. I think it actually works pretty well. And a lot of really attractive ladies in this match, straight up. So, yeah. Picking up midway through, AJ gets taken to the canvas. Paige, wow, I just... wait for that to get online. Paige is what they would call if they were together. Now, she mounts her, and she hits... and she rains down the headbutts, starts skipping around, tosses AJ in the corner, and hits the Matt Morgan elbows, like left, right, left, right, left, right. And Paige has been doing the Matt Morgan elbows for quite a while. Stomps in the corner, Mudhole stomps in the corner, actually, very nice. Ties her up in the ropes, puts her across the ropes, and hits the repeated knee strikes. Gets a 1 count off of it, so AJ kicked out at 1. Locks in a modified surfboard, knee in the lower back, and catches AJ with a knee when she breaks the hold. Goes for the Matt Morgan elbows again, charges in, AJ gets the knees up, and she double kicks Paige to the canvas. Fez press with the punches, and when she gets back up, charging clothesline, reverse neck breaker, back kick, comes off the ropes. Paige just decimates her with a side kick, 1-2, and a kick out. Goes for the rampage, gets countered with knee strikes, and AJ with a arm wringer and a back heel kick, very Booker T style, Barry. And AJ gets to the middle turnbuckle, hits a very awkward tornado DDT, gets a 2 off of that. Paige catches her with a back kick, whip in, reverse, and AJ leaps up and locks on a hanging guillotine choke. So AJ's picked up, going for a slam, and she decides, instead of just slamming AJ, she decides to skip around while holding AJ, and she hits a fall-away slam, and AJ gets knocked, momentum taking her to the floor. So Paige sends her to the barricade, she climbs up, going for a superplex into the fans, mind you, and AJ sweeps the leg, and Paige hits the back of her head on the top of the barricade. She's done for. We're about at 7 at this point. Alicia Fox realizes her meal ticket is about to lose, and to try to save the match, she throws Paige back into the ring at 9. Well, this allows for Paige to groggily get up to her feet. AJ hits the Black Widow, and quick tap out, and that's the end. After the match is over, AJ's already left. Paige slaps Alicia Fox for costing her the match and blaming her for the loss. So if we get a Paige and Alicia Fox on Raw tonight, I would not necessarily be surprised. I think we get Paige and Foxy tonight on Raw and AJ on commentary. Either one of two things will happen. Either A, since they're both so crazy, they're going to do a match just so they can get one up on AJ and just destroy her after the match is over. Or B, this may just be two crazies fighting each other and nothing else comes out of it. So, interesting to see where we go with this. Main event time. Oh my god. Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. So, the cell gets lowered. Ambrose music hits. He comes out. And he's got his... Basically, he's carrying, like... I don't know exactly what you would call this. He's basically got a carrying sack for what would be bow and arrows. But of course, he's got something else inside. It's kind of like Nick Cage in The Weatherman. He basically is carrying his weapon of choice, whatever it may be. And of course, he takes it out when he gets to the top of the cell. Because yes, we're going to start this match on top of the cell. So, but first, before anything happens, he tosses an amalgam of chairs into the ring. And then he looks up and he says, "We're all gonna die tonight," and starts climbing the cell. He stands on top of the cell, pulls out the Singapore cane, and he awaits Seth Rollins. So Rollins comes out with Joey Mercury and Jamie Noble. Of course, like you believed it would be anything different. Rollins gets in the ring, starts looking up at Ambrose, pointing down at him. He's like, "Fine, you want to start this on top?" Rollins goes to oblige him, but he stops. And he's like, "No, I'm not doing this." He's arguing with Mercury and Noble at this point. So they stop Rollins from climbing. He gets about, not even a third way up. And he starts, like a couple steps basically is what happens. He starts climbing and he says, "You know what? You guys go up, do my light work for me." So Jamie Noble and Joey Mercury start climbing the opposite sides of the cell. Ambrose is just standing there smiling with Singapore cane, waiting for them to get there. Mercury makes it up first, and then Noble's there second. So they surround Ambrose on the middle of the cell. So Ambrose nails the rib shot, and then he hits one in the back, and then he starts just wearing both Mercury and Noble out with cane shots. Somehow in the confusion, Seth Rollins has appeared on top of the cell, and he nails Ambrose from behind. So Ambrose and Rollins start battling, and then Ambrose ends up getting the Singapore cane, and he gets the Singapore cane when Rollins watches Noble and Mercury basically grab the feet of Ambrose and hold him down. So this allows for Seth to wear Ambrose out with Singapore cane shots after cane shots after cane shots after cane shots. To the entire body, to the back, to the ribs, to the chest, to pretty much everything. So Mercury gets on top and starts pounding Ambrose. Rollins tosses the cane all the way to the ground, just for effect, obviously. Just showing how high they are up in the air. So Rollins wants Ambrose finished off once and for all. So he tells Noble and Mercury, just toss him off the cell. Just toss him off the cell. So they go to do that. And of course Ambrose fights out of it. Because, not quite yet. So he suplexes Jamie Noble on top of the cell. Ambrose backs Rollins all the way to the edge. And Ambrose catches Mercury with a short arm clothesline. Rollins tries to escape. And then Ambrose follows him out. They're about midway down. And Ambrose finally grabs Rollins by the hair. And they're of course above both announce tables at ringside. Because that's how... And I said on this video yesterday, this is probably how this was going to happen. And it did. But not exactly the way I was thinking it would. So, he punches Rollins. Rollins fires back. Rollins sent face first into the cell. Rollins sends Ambrose face first into the cell. Ambrose headbutts Rollins and knocks him off. And two ways of looking at this. Number one, when he headbutted Rollins off, he lost track of what he was doing. He became discombobulated and he kind of just fell off. Or he lost his balance. Or, what sounds more appropriate to me, is that we're playing up the fact that Ambrose is an absolute maniac, and when he headbutted Rollins, he didn't lose his balance. Oh no, he kind of decided just, might as well, and he took the leap of faith and took the bump through the table anyway. So both Rollins and Ambrose go through both announce tables. The match is not even started yet. We haven't even heard a bell ring. At least if it has rung, I haven't heard it yet. Fans going nuts here. Rollins and Ambrose both in piles of broken tables on opposite sides. Really miss Jim Ross on this because the call on this would have been awesome. Michael Cole sucks at calling stuff like this. He really does. He doesn't show enough emotion. He really doesn't. I say, you can say what you want about Michael Cole. I don't think he shows enough emotion in his commentary. I never thought that, though. So, they're both down and out. And referee call for EMTs. And they call for help. They call for security. They call for everyone to basically try to get Ambrose and Rollins out of the building. So they bring stretchers out. Seth gets put on the backboard, and they try to put Ambrose in a knee brace, but it doesn't really, a neck brace, but it doesn't really work out that well. So they strap Rollins to the stretcher, and then they roll him towards the back. Well, they put Ambrose finally on the stretcher, but he becomes aware, sitting up, and eventually he ends up getting off the stretcher. Well, when he's alert, he attacks Rollins, and that's when Rollins is trying to get rolled out of the building. Rollins ends up getting sent face first into the cell. Ambrose tosses him in the ring, says lock the door, and we call for the bell, finally. So Ambrose grabs a big bag and pulls out just a bunch of tools. He gets duct tape, thinks about it, throws it down. So many awesome things I could have done with that. He clears the chairs except for one. He sits on it watching Rollins basically wither around in the mat in pain. So he says, "You stabbed me in the back, you son of a bitch," and starts chair-shotting him in the back as hard as humanly possible. Hits about 7 shots to the entire body of Rollins because he kind of rides around the mat in pain, and the second he rolls around, Ambrose hits another body part. So Rollins tries to escape, and he ends up getting beeled over the ropes back into the ring. Rollins gets back on the ring apron, and Ambrose grabs a screwdriver. And since this isn't CZW, he doesn't really get it to work out because Rollins stops him with a neck snap. Ambrose, not to be deterred, shakes it off momentarily, dives in, and basically front drop kicks Seth Rollins off into the cell. So Ambrose sends Rollins into the cell. He gets the table, he puts it against the cell, setting up probably his own demise, and Ambrose grabs an over-the-shoulder power slam to try to ram him. Who knows what he was going to try to do at this point. He was either going to try to power slam him through it, or ram him face first through it, or head first through it. Nothing good would have came out of this for Seth Rollins if he actually would have succeeded. So Rollins lands on his feet behind him, and he slides in the ring, and this stops Ambrose's momentum. But not really, because when Rollins tries to escape, Ambrose nails him with a clubbing blow to the back of the neck, sending him over the top rope to the floor. Ambrose nails the tope, sending Rollins back into the cell. So he tosses him back in. So he stacks the chairs in a nice little neat pile, and he picks him up by the nose, fish hook by the nose here. He goes for a suplex into the pile. It gets blocked. He gets a little higher on the next one, but it gets blocked. Rollins changes momentum and backdrop suplexes Dean Ambrose onto the pile of chairs. Rollins grabs the table, puts it in the ring, but he decides against that, and it looks like he was trying to balance it like teeter-totter style between the apron and the cell, but it kind of didn't work out that way, so it was kind of, like slanted is basically what it was. So Rollins climbs up, and he goes for a superplex. It's blocked. It's blocked. Ambrose hits a desperation neck snap. Rollins just happens to land on the table. Ambrose heads up top, puts the finger gun at Rollins in a shout out to Mick Foley, and hits the Cactus Jack hip buster through the table on Seth Rollins. So Ambrose gets up in Mercury and Noble's face through the cage, basically saying you can't do anything to stop this. So he rakes Rollins' face across the cell. And just when he's about to stop, he gets a welcome addition to the match does Seth Rollins, and that is Kane with a fire extinguisher shooting the fire extinguisher into the face. So he shot the powder in the face, basically. Rollins going for the turnbuckle powerbomb, but there's no turnbuckle, so he basically just straight up powerbombs him through the table that's set up against the cell. Rollins rolls Ambrose back in the ring. Hits the curb stomp. Match over. 1, 2, Ambrose kicks out. So Rollins gets the briefcase, sets it up. Gets a chair, sets it up. Chairs Ambrose in the back as hard as humanly possible. And then he repeatedly nails him in the chest. Turnabout is fair play for earlier on in the match. So he puts the case down. He puts Ambrose's head on the case. Concerto style, basically. And he goes for the curb stomp. Or he readies for the curb stomp. He bounds off the ropes. Ambrose stops him with a knee lift. And goes for Dirty Deeds version 2. Countered, and Rollins basically nails him with a Pele kick. Of course, when that happens, he rocks Ambrose back, and Ambrose uses the momentum to hit the rebound straight into the Jawbreaker Lariat. Ambrose grabs the briefcase. Rollins groggily gets up. He mows him over with the briefcase, and 1, 2, Rollins kicks out. What does Ambrose have to do to put Seth Rollins away this time? He goes out to the ring. He goes underneath the ring, doesn't find what he's looking for. Pulls out 2 cinder blocks. He puts him in the ring, stacking them beside the head of Seth Rollins. It's funny because the commentators here were talking about this being poetic justice. Not the movie I was thinking was going to happen. He was readying Seth Rollins, and this was about to become American History X really, really fast. So the lights go out before the curb stomp that could have possibly killed Seth Rollins, in all actuality. If things were obviously on the up and up. Lights out. We hear some chanting. It sounds like they're speaking in tongues somewhat, but it's chanting. I can't tell if it's Latin, I can't tell exactly what it is, but it's over and over chanting. It kind of reminds me, as much as I hate this movie, it kind of reminds... No, actually, no, I'll think of something better. It kind of reminds me of, chanting in, for, an exorcism, obviously. Like, what happens when someone is very possessed. They obviously speak in tongues and they start chanting. So, I believe the crappy movie I'm referring to is probably The Devil Inside here, actually. So, we hear this chanting. The lights go out. When the lights come back on, a lantern is in the ring. And then smoke and fog start to fill the ring. And then all of a sudden the fog gives way to a Musion effect of there is a body image. We can't tell what it is or who it is. But there is some sort of magic going on in the ring, and this allows for Bray Wyatt to come out of the fog and Vader attack Dean Ambrose, leaving him for dead. Bray's upside down in the corner, looking back at Ambrose laying on the canvas. He starts crab walking towards him, staring Ambrose in the face upside down, and the most creepy thing you possibly could see. And then, of course, he rights himself and nails Ambrose with the most vicious Nodawa Otashi I've ever seen in this country. Or Uranagi, depending on who's calling your match. And Rollins can't believe his luck. He kind of looks like, what's going to happen? But he's going to take it anyway, because he's an opportunist, and he makes the cover. 1, 2, 3. And smartly, Seth Rollins gets the hell out of Dodge, and we don't see him anymore. He gets helped to the back by Joey Mercury and Jamie Noble, but that segment's over. So Ambrose is picked up by Bray Wyatt. Bray, of course, does the kiss of death, nails him with a vicious Sister Abigail, and leaves him laying. So, that's how we go home at Hell in a Cell. Harkening back to the first Hell in a Cell, back at Bad Blood in October of 1997, with this time Bray Wyatt playing the part of Kane, and interrupting this tremendous match. Now, a lot of people on the internet are saying a lot of bad things about this finish. They don't really like it. They don't think that Ambrose and Rollins got a good, suitable conclusion. Well, I don't think they have a conclusion because they really didn't do enough to make this feel like a conclusion. But here's the thing. Another way to look at it is this. This was Hell in a Cell. They went all out, and this is probably the end of this feud. At least for the time being. Maybe put it on the back burner a bit. Because obviously going forward, the feuds we're looking at here is Dean Ambrose feuding with Bray Wyatt in a battle of crazy. In a battle of, my God, it's going to break my wrist writing the promos these two are going to cut on each other. And of course, Seth Rollins working with Randy Orton. Hopefully this doesn't mean that John Cena is going to work with Kane. I really don't want that to happen. Can we boost someone else up in the time being so Cena can work with somebody else so I don't have to have Kane on my screen against John Cena at Survivor Series? It sounds like that's what we're leading towards. I don't want that to happen. Maybe Hunter. How about maybe Hunter could put the tights back on and work with John Cena? I want to see that. I'd rather see that more than I'd rather see Kane. No offense to Kane, he's ran out his usefulness. But he did get involved in the match, and he was part of the reason that in the end, Dean Ambrose couldn't get the job done against Seth Rollins. I enjoyed this match. It was what it was, and a lot of people would say what they want about it. I enjoyed this match. Good back and forth, good old school hardcore, good old school Attitude Era in a PG era is basically what it was. The table bump, not exactly what I was anticipating, but there's probably not as much further they could have went in this match at this point with the PG era. I know it's kind of like very watered down PG era because obviously it's getting more of like a PG-13 era now. So or like a soft R PG-13, hard PG-13 soft R now, to put it in movie wording. But yeah, I enjoyed this for what it was. I really did. I thought it worked really well. I liked the involvement of Mercury and Noble. I liked the involvement of Kane in the short bursts. I like how Randy Orton didn't care enough to get involved. So obviously that's going to put more fuel to the fire, and probably the Authority are going to hold his feet to the flame for not helping Seth Rollins win. Rollins is probably going to be mad. He's going to be like, I had it anyway, but it'd been nice to have a little bit of help from my brother because I helped you out last week getting you that match, and just because you couldn't get the job done against John Cena doesn't mean you have to sit in the back and watch me get beat up, at least momentarily. Of course, this would lead to the whole Authority turning on Randy Orton, and Randy Orton ended up making the save when the big beating comes down on Dean Ambrose somewhere down the line. I think we actually get a Randy Orton and Dean Ambrose against the Authority storyline sometime soon. Even just a short-term thing. I think it actually might happen. And I think this time next year, I think John Cena and Randy Orton are on the same side opposing others. So I think that might be where we go with this. So, no Harper and Rowan. And this was Bray by himself. This is going to do a lot to rebuild what happened when John Cena mowed through the entire Wyatt family like they were ham and eggers that you would have seen on Saturday morning superstars back in the day. So yeah, this is going to do a lot. I really like what they did. I like what they did with the Musion effect. I like the fog, and I like that the attack from Bray Wyatt just came completely out of nowhere. I know that's a buzzword we're using a lot now, or buzzwording we're using a lot now, but I still love the way it worked out. Overall, I enjoyed the show for what it was. I love what they're doing with The Miz and Damien Sandow. I can't wait to see what we do with that. And this Bo Dallas, Mark Henry short feud, it's over. This was just basically a short time thing. I love Dolph and Cesaro. I thought it was an awesome match. Don't exactly know why there was a 2-fall to nothing. I thought that was a bad call, but there's probably a reason for it. Hopefully it's not a political reason for it. Brie and Nikki did what they could, but yeah, if you wanted to skip a match on the show, it's one of them you could. Goldust and Stardust against the Usos, still about the same thing every week, but they're solid matches, they really are. Cena and Orton did something new with something old, and I actually enjoyed it. We've seen most of these spots before, but the RKO out of the AA we haven't seen, and I really liked it, and even though I don't think the right person went over, I do think that with Cena going towards Lesnar, you do push this Randy Orton-Seth Rollins feud, with Randy Orton possibly trying to win the briefcase from Seth Rollins at TLC, and I think that's probably where we're going to get. Where does this leave Dean Ambrose? Obviously feuding with Bray Wyatt, but we'll talk about that when we get to that. I think Sheamus is going to work with Rusev, him and The Miz, It was okay. I mean, I've seen better matches between the two. I've seen worse. I mean, it's going to be fine. The only thing I could see this continuing tonight is if they do Sheamus against Sandow tonight, and maybe Sandow gets the win, but I think they're going to do that with Dolph in the Intercontinental Championship, because I think Sheamus is going to feud with Rusev. I really enjoyed the... AJ and Paige something was off in this match, honestly. It really was. It was okay, but it wasn't the greatest. AJ and Paige, as great as they both can be, their chemistry is not as great as they could be at this point, which is a shame. Big Show and long day. Big Show and Rusev, it was alright for what it was. Rusev move on to bigger and better things. Big Show move on to Mark Henry, and that's pretty much the end of that. I love what they did with Ambrose and Rollins. Didn't even ring the bell before they started all the craziness in the match. The bumps, everything worked really well, and I don't think that we've seen the end of this when it's all said and done. I do think that obviously this is going to transition to the Bray Wyatt feud, but I don't think that we've seen the last of Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins fighting each other on television, whether it's on pay-per-view or whether it's on Raw or SmackDown. So that's what I'm thinking right now. That was your Hell in a Cell recap. Overall, I enjoyed the show. Good television, enjoyable television. I look forward to seeing what's going to happen on Raw tonight in San Antonio. Hulk Hogan will be there, and we're going to get the fallout from Hell in a Cell. What's going to happen next for Dolph Ziggler? What's going to happen next for Sheamus as it pertains to the Intercontinental and U.S. Championships? Is Randy Orton going to be held accountable for not being able to get the job done against John Cena and not helping Seth Rollins when everyone else did? Is Hunter going to put him accountable? I think that probably happens tonight. What is Bray Wyatt going to say tonight, and why did he do what he did to Dean Ambrose? A lot of questions to be answered. Paige and Alicia Fox probably going to fight. What horrible, horrible things is Nikki going to try to do to her sister when she is now Cinderella? So that is what we're looking at. Rusev sicked on the next victim, and Big Show and Mark Henry are obviously going to have a nice little war of words from Big Show, inadvertently being costed the match by Mark Henry last night. So that was Hell in a Cell in a nutshell. Join me tomorrow. We're going to talk Raw. Wednesday, the Vlog of Randomness talks about Orlando, and in this case, Tampa, theme park perks for annual pass holders, what we're going to do there. And Thursday, Sip and Snack, brand new episode of Sip and Snack. We're going to talk about Mountain Dew Kickstart and maybe a couple other things. We'll find out there. Friday, we'll bring you to Halloween, and we're going to talk AJ's movie reviews, talking about Nightcrawler, VHS Viral, The ABCs of Death 2, and 3 other movies to be announced. Saturday, we'll bring back Ashley's Gaming with Ash segment, and Sunday will be our brand new Versus, first for November. And I can firstly tell you right now that I found out what the Versus is going to be now. So, actually, we're going to keep you guys in waiting. So, enjoy the brand new Versus. New Halloween Horror Nights content. I'm going to talk about Orlando's event one last time, do one last talk about that, and I'm going to talk about Hollywood's event one last time as well. I'm going to watch some videos and check that out, so that's going to be coming very soon. So as always, in the meantime, if you like these videos, tell your friends about them, leave a comment, do subscribe to help spread the word about Pop. If you haven't yet, go to Facebook and click like on our Facebook fan page. It is Sir Owen Disney Pop on Facebook. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, it's at Sir Owen Disney. If you'd like to send me a friend request via Facebook, it's Owen Disney. And last but certainly not least, if you want to talk wrestling with me or Disney, Universal, Halloween Horror Nights, ask me questions, have Versus ideas, have Sip and Snack ideas, want to become a popcaster yourself, do so by sending me a simple email, siroandisney@gmail.com. So in the meantime, I want to thank you guys and girls out there for watching, and until tomorrow, boys and girls, that's all I got to say about that.